Well, hi everyone. There's a topic I just wanted to discuss titled Four Secrets to Self Forgiveness If You Grew Up in an Unforgiving Family. A lot of my audience and a lot of my viewers grew up in dysfunctional families, toxic families, narcissistic families, alcoholic families, very dependent families, very enmeshed families, families in which there were toxic divorces, abandonment, and many kinds of struggles that way. This topic, I think, is important because so many people that I've talked to over the years, and I have talked to a lot of people over 45 years, probably thousands. And one of the things they have struggled with consistently has been self forgiveness. And I felt the same way as well. I did not understand self forgiveness. I did not understand what that truly meant. And I certainly did not know how to do it. So, we're going to be talking about self forgiveness. And if you've had a struggle with that, continue to watch. I've got some secrets for you that I'll bet at least a couple of them you may not have thought about. And I think that could be a help to you. I first want to mention the online program that I now have up, which is Your New Road to Self, kind of a culmination of my 45 years, putting it into 6 modules with exercises and tools. You can find that on my website, Jerry Wise Relationship Systems, or I think there are some links down below that we'll be putting on there as well. What I found is that people who have worked with me have made, I've found, more progress more quickly and have saved money in the long run, particularly in terms of therapy, coaching, counseling. And so I feel my program and my perspective, my methods are cost effective. And then let me talk about one other thing, which is the training that I have up, Build the Real Self You Were Never Allowed to Have. Totally free. Click on the training, go watch it. No obligation, nothing required from you, other than I think an email or something, just so you can get the program. First of all, we all have to choose between self hate or unforgiveness of self versus self acceptance, self love, and self forgiveness. People ask me so many times, how do I forgive myself? And in my experience of a long, long time, we often ask not the best questions. And we will ask how questions when it actually is a when question. It's not how do you forgive yourself, it's when will you choose to forgive yourself? And it's a when question. Now, please don't misunderstand me, or please don't think it's just a matter of flipping a coin, though, believe it or not, it is. It is just a matter of flipping a coin. It is just a matter of turning a switch. But there's a lot goes into turning that switch. I do want to say that there can be a lot going into doing that. But it's like somebody asking me, okay, Jerry, I want you to show me how to breathe. Well, you take air in your mouth and take it into your lungs and blow it back out and then take in some more. I mean, or teach me how to breathe. Just start doing it. I mean, and so many times we will ask the how questions. How do I forgive myself? Or people will say, how do I stop hating me? The way to stop hating you is to stop hating you. Sounds simple, but it may not be easy because it is a when. When am I going to forgive myself? When am I going to stop hating myself? I understand we've had years, decades, or complete childhoods that have included hating ourselves or not forgiving ourselves, taking on the blame, feeling the shame and guilt, there is no forgiveness, and particularly in non-forgiving families, especially when they're shaming and guilt tripping, then we internalize and incorporate that as to how we treat ourselves. So I think becoming aware that we have learned that, and that's a pattern, but then getting actually to the when am I going to start forgiving myself? Didn't say it's easy, but it is simple. And so we do have to deal with that truth. That can happen when you're ready to do it. And it doesn't take a whole lot of how. It doesn't take a whole lot of methods, 3 steps to forgiving yourself and or 12 step. No, it's a matter of when you're ready. You have a right to not be ready. And what I mean by that is if you grew up in a dysfunctional family and you grew up for many years in an unforgiving family and you grew up believing you should not be forgiven and people weren't forgiving in your family, and many dysfunctional families are not forgiving, then you internalize the not forgiving and then carry that over into your adulthood, and your inner self does not match your adult self, and it continues to be unforgiving of you. In other words, you can't make a mistake, can't mess up. And certainly I've made enough mistakes that I've had to learn, or not had, didn't have to. I chose to learn self-forgiveness because I have done enough mistakes in my life that I knew I was going to have to deal with that. And of course, particularly if you've done shameful things, then, oh, well, then I don't deserve forgiveness at all from myself, which is just the opposite is actually true. We'll come to that in a moment. So the first secret is self-forgiveness is a choice. It doesn't take a manual. It doesn't take 5 books you have to read. If you have to read 5 books, then go ahead. That's fine. And if you're not ready to forgive yourself, I would recommend you do this. And I'm not shaming you for not being ready to forgive yourself. I know how it feels to not be ready to forgive yourself. So if you don't forgive yourself, then start out with, I am not ready to forgive myself. And say that 100 times a day. As you begin to accept yourself and accept that you're not ready to forgive yourself, it has a paradoxical effect because you're accepting yourself in your non-forgiveness, which is a paradox, which means you're loving and caring about yourself in your unforgiveness or unreadiness. And again, you may be unready because of all that you've been through for all of your life. And it may not be something that you could escape with so much unforgiveness that you grew up with. So the first thought is self-forgiveness is a choice. Am I ready to make that choice, or am I not ready to make that choice? I need to think about that. If I'm not ready, you're okay. If you're ready, you're okay. Either way, you're okay. And we don't want to judge and shame ourselves for where we're at and say, Jerry said I may not be ready, and that was okay. I'm going to accept myself, as he mentioned, in not being ready while you're starting to be ready as you're accepting yourself. Because self-acceptance is kind of a beginning of self-forgiveness, just to accept yourself. So it has a nice way of messing with our head in a positive way. Notice I didn't say, I'll never be able to forgive myself. I'll never want to forgive myself. I never said use that statement. I said, I'm not yet ready to forgive myself, or I am not ready to forgive myself. That's a statement of fact. It's not a shaming statement that's negative or positive. It just is. And I'm going to continue to say that until as I begin to say it more and more, then self-forgiveness actually can start to happen. And that's what I found when we have these knots going on in our heads. Number two, self-forgiveness does not absolve you from responsibility, but it releases you from self-punishment. No different than if I forgive someone else. It doesn't absolve them from their responsibility. It allows me to let it go and to let them go. But it doesn't mean they don't have responsibility for the wrongs that they have done, no different than I. If I forgive myself, it doesn't mean I haven't done the wrong doesn't happen anymore or it never happened. No, it did happen. I was wrong. I made the mistake. I made a poor choice. I am responsible for that. But it does release me from the self-punishment. Early in our life, we got family punishment and the emotional field punishment, the way the Wi-Fi was in the family. And we would get their ire for our mistakes, stupid things we've done. And we've all done stupid things. We've all done immoral things. We've all done insensitive things. I mean, if you're human, I imagine now we're for all human, we're going to violate or hurt other people or do things that would be warranted for forgiveness. But it releases us from self-punishment. I don't have to keep punishing myself. And so when someone comes to me after, let's say I've forgiven myself. Let's say I know one of the things that I remember I felt really kind of attacked and hurt when I was a pastor because I had some folks who were very negative and acting kind of immaturely and were projecting their own abusive father family situation onto me. I was still pretty immature and didn't know how to handle it very well. And so I would take it personally. I would feel shamed. I would feel, I got reactive. And then I would start talking badly about them to, let's say, other elders or other deacons or leaders or whatever. And it's like, and I truly felt bad about doing that because that's, even though they were wrong, two wrongs don't make a right. They're over there talking about me and trashing me. I'm over here maybe saying more of the truth, but I'm still trashing them, you know. And it's like, this is not healthy. This is not normal. And so I feel badly about that. So when things got reconciled and when I felt more strength and less pinged and less reactive, after going through some healing and things like that, then I could go and say, hey, to the folks who were giving me a hard time, I think unnecessarily, it was their own family of origin stuff. I would say, well, I think, I do think what you did was wrong, but I also know what I did was wrong. I can't apologize for you. I can only apologize for me. And I regret saying those things. I regret doing those things. Now, I no longer have to punish myself for doing those things, but I'm still responsible for doing those things. So if I then start interacting with some of the people I talk to about those issues, I may need to do some cleaning up or making amends, or, I'm still responsible. Or if somebody says 10 years later, didn't you do that to, Betty and John? I'm still responsible. Yes, I did. That is what I did. That was not a proud moment of mine. That was not a good experience for me. I'm sure not for them as well. There were lots of extraneous circumstances going on, but I did do that, and that was wrong. So I'm still responsible, but I don't have to beat myself up and keep punishing myself for that. So that's what's helpful about self-forgiveness. Number three, self-forgiveness is more likely to keep you from repeating your bad actions versus unforgiveness. So many people, if I were to ask them, if I waved a magic wand and you totally forgave yourself right now, what would be a downside? And let me tell you, you may have guessed some of those things it might be, but one of them is I would fear doing it again. And so I keep this unforgiveness going so I won't do it again. I know that's how I felt. I didn't forgive me because I thought that'll keep me on the straight and narrow. And actually, really what it does is it keeps you in a more dangerous situation of repeating it again. A lack of self-forgiveness, you're more likely to be reactive, make mistakes, even the same mistakes. Whereas true self-forgiveness, you are probably less likely to do those behaviors again. Probably much less likely because you have internalized the problem in a healthy way, forgiven yourself, take full responsibility, and move on with your life. You are probably less likely to repeat those behaviors. Whereas if you keep yourself in jail in unforgiveness, you're going to try to break out, and you'll break out by repeating the mistakes again. And I've just seen that over 45 years. It's just been a truth that I've seen happen time and time again because people, well, I don't want to forgive myself because I don't want to forget what I did. Well, don't forget what you did, but forgive yourself. Well, I need to take responsibility for what I did. Take responsibility for what you did and forgive yourself. And as I mentioned, what are the downsides? And I mentioned one of them because I'll repeat this. If I forgive myself, then I'll repeat this. I will not learn the lesson that I needed to learn. If I forgive myself, then I'm applying, in some ways, cheap grace to me. I'll just forgive me and just go on and do it again. If I forgive myself, then I'm more worried about me than I am of other people in terms of caring about other people, that I'm more self-centered or narcissistic. And all of these downsides they're true and they're real, but they're false and they're kind of baloney. But they do keep us in, I don't want to forgive myself because, well, and if I forgave myself, what if these people whom I gossiped about were to see me acting happy, fulfilled, normal, forgiven? What would they think if they saw me that way? Who cares what they would think if they saw you that way? I'm fully willing to take responsibility for what I did at any time. And that's why, if there have been affairs that have happened within marriages, let's say a husband, it's common, but not just husbands have affairs, so do wives. But a husband has an affair, come back, it was his only affair, it was totally inappropriate. He was wrong, and he wants to try to work it out with his wife if she's willing. And so one of the difficulties is unforgiveness gets in the way of healing a relationship. If I hate myself and never forgive myself regarding having an affair, then I will never have one again. When in actuality, if you don't forgive yourself, if you don't choose to love yourself in a healthy way, then you probably will have another affair. So it's not the unforgiveness that keeps you safe. Unforgiveness does not keep you safe. Self-hate does not keep you safe. Anger does not keep you safe. And a lot of people, we've been taught that those should do that. And, if I just stay angry with them all the time, then I won't be hurt. No, you'll be hurt all the time now. I mean, number one, there's no guarantee against getting hurt. But I can at least guarantee you won't be hurt all the time if you give up your anger. You still could get hurt, but you're not. If you're angry all the time, then you're getting hurt all the time if you don't give up that anger. Because anger is something just stays in there and goes and goes and goes and goes and goes. And always pops up his head and really causes a real difficulty. Number 4, a lack of self-forgiveness may be a carryover from the family superself and the family Wi-Fi. And I think I've already implied or suggested this, that lack of self-forgiveness. Where did you learn to not forgive yourself? Ask yourself that question so you can go back and ask, where did I learn to not forgive myself? Well, first of all, there was never any forgiveness at home. Nobody said, you're forgiven. Nobody said, that's okay. You're imperfect. We still love you. But that wasn't going on. And also, if I felt a lack of self-forgiveness or if I had self-disdain, what I find in dysfunctional families is parents didn't intervene in that. It's so normal for them that why would they intervene? Because it's probably normal for them growing up and normal in the family now. But if you have that self-disdain, self-hate, unforgiveness, parents just didn't deal with that. They never said, "Oh, well, that's not good. We need to talk about that." And dysfunctional parents and families don't recognize that as a red flag. They don't recognize that it's something that should be addressed with their children. They just, because they do the same thing with themselves. So you're just doing what they do for themselves, and it's all normal. It's all just normal. So we're not going to intervene in that. Whereas in healthy families, a parent would intervene if they see a child being too hard on themselves or being self-disdaining, unforgiving, depressed, or just feel like a failure. And a healthy parent would intervene in that. Go, oh, we need to take a look at this. So I think looking back at your family Wi-Fi, looking back at your family super self, and speaking of the super self, I spend at least an entire module in the online program that I have that I would suggest you to go take a look at and read about, that's on the family super self and how it works so that you can use it today and use that understanding to free yourself from the dysfunctional family you have or had. I hope you found this video helpful. I want to introduce you to my new step-by-step program designed to help you break free from the toxic relationship dynamics in your family, to heal your relationships, and build the real self you were never allowed to have. I personally wish I would have had access to a program like this early in my own journey. This program is an investment in yourself, your relationships, your healing, and your life. To learn more about the program, click on the program link below provided in the description. I truly believe it will have a profound effect on your life. Hi everyone, my name is Jerry Wise, and I'm the director for the Center for Self-Differentiation. I work with clients in my office. I work with them online, on Skype, basically anywhere that in the English-speaking world. I've got a lot of clients who come to me and ask me, how can I get my family out of me? So this video is entitled Family Hunger, How Can I Get My Family Out of Me? I had a client who was struggling with a very toxic family who had basically used her, cut her off, would treat her disrespectfully, and even tell lies to other siblings about her. No one was willing to confront the troublemaking sister, and no one wanted to cause more problems. My client has felt hurt, confused, abandoned, mistreated by her family, used, and basically used and thrown away. by her family. Her sister would fly in from Florida and visit her two brothers in the same town where where she lives, but not even tell my client that she had even been there. The sister has children that are close in age to her age and doesn't make any efforts to connect them with their cousins. And this felt really painful for my client, and it has for years. Also, my client did feel very bad because she felt her kids were not getting the benefits from the extended family that she was hoping would happen. And due to this dysfunctional pattern, her kids are kind of alienated from their cousins. The mother had died, and the triangles and cutoffs continued in the family. Mom would be the one to bring the family together. Now everybody's kind of disjointed. This client called me and wanted to know, how can I get them out of me? I realize I can't expect much from them, but I'm still suffering the emotional struggles and problems and hurts and obsession about it and those kinds of things. And she talked about feeling disappointed and even left out and even feeling lonely at times because she feels kind of family abandoned. Many people have lots of leftover what I call family hunger from either family abandonment or the hunger they feel inside to have a normal family, to have those parents that you always wanted, to have the siblings that interact with you in a healthy way, to have your children interact with their children and cousins interact with cousins, etc. And this family hunger, let me describe what family hunger is. This yearning to have what other people seem to have with their family of origin. The longing for understanding parents and supportive siblings. Hoping for enjoyable family holiday times with extended family members. Wanting to never feel left out. And always being included in family and sibling events. Feeling orphaned. Feeling abandoned by your family of origin. Feeling the pain, shame, and guilt of having parents who don't show very much in the way of caring, empathy, or understanding. And as holidays approach, we wait by the phone to see if we'll get a ring to invite you to family gatherings, rather than just hearing it through the grapevine that they're having a family event somewhere, and I guess I'm supposed to show up. Feeling hurt or disappointed that no one from your family sent you a happy birthday card on your birthday. Even though birthdays may not be so big for you, you feel like, couldn't they even just remember one day and it's my birthday, everybody knows when my birthday is? Not hearing a word. Something big happens to someone in the family and you're the last to know. Or you come to know it accidentally or through the grapevine. Family hunger involves never feeling accepted by your family of origin, no matter how hard you try. Believing that someday they will change enough to meet your internal needs. Or that you will change enough that they will want to meet your needs or want to be connected to you. You have wanted to cut off emotionally from your family of origin. This also can be family hunger as well, because either we feel enmeshed or we want to cut off. Both are the result of overcloseness. So we want to get enmeshed. Why don't they call me? Why aren't we connecting? Why aren't we talking? To, I'm just going to cut off from them. I don't even care. When really we do care. We're just whistling past the cemetery. In other words, we're going to cut off from them to show them how big we are and that we don't need them anymore. But actually the pain continues inside. And this family hunger can be exhibited in wanting to cut off emotionally from your family of origin because it's just too painful to experience their dysfunction or toxicity. Because it was too difficult to maintain being yourself while staying connected to this rather dysfunctional family. So what can we do to get our family of origin out of us? I've got some tips I want to share with you, and this is what I use and what I talk to clients about and how to help them get their family out of them. One of the biggest problems I deal with is this. Clients have way too high expectations for their siblings and their parents. They assume their family of origin should act normally, though when you get the history from them, actually their family has never acted normally. They should act with empathy and insight and maturity, and the family never has had any of these three since my client was a child. But yet we still expect that and want that to happen. We yearn for that to happen. Our families are made up of people, of human beings who are flawed, who have problems, who have their own issues, and they will get expressed in family dynamics. So lowering our expectation of our family can help tremendously. We expect so much from them. I know, and remember, this video is a generalist video. In other words, I'm talking to a general audience. So maybe in your own family there might be some exceptions. I always try to make that clear in the videos. Sometimes people will comment on my videos and say, oh, well, my family's not exactly that way. Well, it may not be. But in general, I think it's good to lower your expectations for your family of origin. People may ask, well, you mean I should lower my expectations and not expect them to cuss me out and to be disrespectful and to say bad things about me? Well, it's not that I think you should think that's all okay, but what I help people try to understand is that's the way your family is. That's what they do. Why do you let that bother you so much? That's their issue, not yours. Even if they're calling you names, it's still not, that doesn't make it true or real. That's their own anger, frustration, dysfunctional or systemic feelings that cause these things to come out of them. And yet we take them so personally. And it's like, why do you want to take that so personally? Though I fully understand, having experienced that in my own life, for sure, I fully understand how that feels very much like us. But we'll talk about that in just a minute. Do your family of origin grief work. Give up your dream of having the family you always wanted, the family you always wanted to have, or as some have called it, the Norman Rockwell family, if you're a little older, maybe my age, or the Leave It to Beaver family, or the Huxtables, or whomever it might be. Do the grief work that it never was, and it never will be that way. And we may need to cry and get over that, and let that go. It's okay to let this go. You will find more happiness and actually experience life in a more happy way if we can let go of this fantasy. Rather than if I let go of this fantasy, it will never happen and I will be totally miserable the rest of my life. And I'll feel lonely the rest of my life. No, you're going to feel lonely because you haven't let it go. That's why we feel so lonely. Number 3, stop believing this, that all my needs are real. Most of our dependency needs from childhood are not real. They were real when we were children, but in terms of now, they're a part of our inner child architecture. And we expect or want our family of origin to meet those now. Those needs are not realistic and are not real now. For example, me as an adult, I need a mother who accepts and understands me. I need a mother who will not criticize me all the time. These are not real needs. They're wants, but they're not needs. You can live and thrive and be healthy without any of these. So that's why I say they're not real needs. Again, there may be something you want. It's okay to want something. I mean, I'd like to have a Rolls-Royce convertible. That's a want, but it's not a need. And probably will not be getting that anytime soon. So remember, those are wants, not needs. But oftentimes we think of them as needs, and then our existence depends on them. Fourthly, stop believing this, that all my hurts are real. The hurts we feel are often the re-injury to our inner child, but really should not be impactful to our inner adult. our hurt seems very real. Hurts are real to our inner child, but should be next to meaningless to our inner adult. So if a sister calls you a creepy witch to her brother, that wounds your inner child. As an adult, I don't care what she calls me. It doesn't matter. Inner witch doesn't even make sense. And if she thinks that way, that's the way she thinks. I know I'm not that way. If that's the way she thinks and wants to tell people, and some people want to believe her, what can I do? But I have no need for her not to do that. I have a want for her to not do that, but that I don't have to feel re-injured or re-hurt by that every time she does it. That's my inner child stuff that I haven't resolved. The inner adult should say, who cares? Really? That sounds pretty crazy. You know, a wicked witch or a stupid, arrogant brother or whatever you want to call. Okay, if that's what you think, that's what you think. Though it's not real, and it's not going to affect me as an adult. My inner child, those inner hurts become less and less as I deal with my inner child issues. Stop thinking this. I think all my anger is real. I feel so angry at my parents or my family, I just want to hurt them as badly as I have been hurt. This anger is inner child anger, which requires healing and letting go, and accepting that me, the adult, I don't need to carry around that anger anymore from behaviors that my family have done in the past or even doing now. Anger hurts me. It doesn't hurt them. It hurts me. So I want to be careful how real I put a stake in this anger, that this is totally legitimate and totally reasonable. And often we do get confused between our inner child, or what I call like systemic feelings, feeling systemically hurt. That's where you're a 47-year-old adult, your mother tells your sister that she thinks you're selfish, and you feel hurt by that. That's not real hurt, that's systemic hurt. That's hurt from the dysfunctional family systemics in which the inner child has not been healed and it feels re-injured. But as an adult, it really shouldn't matter. You can tell my sister whatever you want to tell her. You can tell her I'm crazy as a loon. I would rather you not, but it's not necessary that you don't. Number 6, when we fight over feeling heard, which is often a complaint I hear quite often from people, where they will say they don't feel heard, they don't feel understood, they don't feel accepted, they don't feel respected, they feel undervalued. Often when we fight over these issues, we are fighting over something which is really an unnecessary item we don't need or require. My family of origin does not need to understand me for me to be happy. My family of origin does not need to accept me for me to be happy. My family of origin does not need to respect me. They don't need to value me. Those are all wants. Those are certainly wants, but they're not needs. I don't need to have that done. We feel needy and fight and have conflict over something like being accepted, because without it, we will have to be miserable or less of a person or maintain our low self-esteem. That's what we often fear and feel. And I heard a quote recently, it was like, but actually it's like two bald men fighting over a comb. I teach people to stop needing and stop yearning and stop fighting over a comb they don't need. I tell the two bald people, why are you fighting over this comb? Neither of you have hair. But we don't see it that way. We see it as, you don't understand, I've got this whole head of hair and I need that comb. So we fight over acceptance and feeling valued and those kinds of things. When actually, let the comb go. You don't need it. 7, letting go does not mean cutting off and emotionally cutting off. It means I am neutral. I have a strong sense of self, and I can be who I am. I am not triggered or reactive to your invitations to argue or to put me down or to disrespect me or get in a fight with you or a verbal argument or whatever. I have no need for that. So again, letting go doesn't mean cutting off. It means becoming neutral. And I try to help people become neutral, where they feel more stabilized inside. 8, getting my family out of me means moving from parents with a capital P to seeing them or seeing your family as fellow human beings. Or I've even gone so far as poorly evolved primates. We're all poorly evolved primates. So is your family. So are you. Capital M for mom, capital D for dad, turning them into Mary and Bob rather than mom and dad, and have them so powerful. Resist biology. Well, but they're my parents, Jerry. They are my blood parents. I realize that. They will never not be your blood parents, no matter what. They will never not be that. But biology doesn't mean you have to stay enmeshed. And they say, but they're my parents. And I say, and your point is? They're still adults with, as the Bible says, feet of clay. I mean, we're all human. And we're just, all of us. And as adults, they're imperfect. As parents, they were imperfect. This is the dealt we got. This is the hand we got dealt. So you can deal with you. You don't have to make them all right and make them right and fix them and those kinds of things. Number 9, I ask clients to look at the downside of getting my family out of me. Or if I let go of my family, what do I lose? And resolve those fears, issues, and concerns. That's very important. Looking at the downside of a positive behavior or event. That way I can more easily let go of something. Number 10, knowing over-involvement and over-enmeshment with our family of origin is measured by how much we are under-involved in our own lives and our own sense of self. Those that are highly enmeshed and highly worried about what their family of origin is thinking, doing, believing, feeling about them, I then look at their lives and go, well, how much do you do in terms of self-care, self-awareness, self-love, self-determination, self-direction, self-motivation? Often it's very low because they've gotten fixed on their family and haven't moved on, or we haven't grown up. And the less someone is dependent on their family for emotional needs, the more they take care of their own emotional needs for themselves. And this is the increasing the level of self-differentiation. And that's what self-differentiation is about, is becoming you while staying connected. Number 11, fear of abandonment, fear of being alone, or fear of being a family orphan, keeps our family of origin stuck inside us. Dealing with those fears, resolving those fears, allows us to let go of that family that's stuck inside of us. And then 12th is the last. If someone just cannot get over the obsession, and is so enmeshed, so obsessive compulsive about their family, I even recommend that they use a 12-step program to deal with their enmeshment and or addiction to their family of origin. Because addiction programs and 12-step programs can help with that obsession, the compulsion, the need to walk on eggshells, the worry, the fear of losing them, the fear of staying in contact with them. Often clients will put more and more worry time, about their family of origin than in their own recovery and self-care. So we may need to work a first step, and you can take a look at the 12 steps and take a look at it, to begin to deal with that obsession about our family of origin. If you want more help with letting go of your family of origin, or getting your family of origin out of you. Contact me for expert help in this field. Many people find a great sense of emotional control and less reactivity having sessions with me. They feel less reactive, more self-loving and accepting, a greater peace, happier relationships, and more in control of their lives. They can sleep better, they have less depression, they even learn how to do conflict better in a way that does not frighten them or leave them feeling alone or afraid. There are many rewards to addressing these issues and getting the family out of us and becoming more self-differentiated. Contact me for an appointment. My contact information is on the screen, my email and my phone number. Please join our YouTube channel. If you want more resources or a complete listing of all of my over 100 free videos on YouTube, contact me via email and I'll send them to you free. I want to tell you today, thank you very much for watching and have a great day. Wanted to do a short and brief live this evening or today, depending upon where you are in the world and in the country. But I wanted to do a little talking today. I wanted to make sure if you cannot hear me, be sure to let me know. But I'm using AirPods so I don't scrape the earbuds on my collar. And tonight, I wanted to talk to you about feelings, at least briefly give some points about feelings that might be of help to you. And again, are you hearing me okay? I just wanted to check. I see a couple of people have come on. I just want to make sure you can hear me, and I don't want to do a whole live without being heard. Great. Thanks, Patty. I wanted to, and Carol, I see here tonight, several people are here. It's wonderful to have you. I want to first mention, as I always want to mention, the upcoming online program, the flagship program of mine, the 6-week online program that are major modules. There are 6 of them. You can learn at your own pace. There's exercises and extraneous materials, other materials that come. And it starts the last day to sign up for the pre-launch discount is May the 5th. So I just want everybody to know that. And that comes with extras, bonuses. There are other things that are going to be provided to you as well. And then after May 7th, the price will be changing. And thank you for your encouragement I see in the comments. So we have the online program coming up, Your New Road to Self. And each module deals with a different dynamic and a different theoretical idea and my beliefs about healing and recovery, so that you will get a really in-depth view of these concepts. And you can re-listen to it and re-listen to it, and it should be a help to you. I wish I'd have had it 40 years ago. I wish I'd have had it 35 years ago. I wish I could have watched something like I've put together. I really think that would have helped me, because at that time, about the only way you could get that information is kind of go to academic books. And most people were just not reading academic books as self-help. And it's kind of difficult to weed out what really would be helpful and usable. And I've taken all that and made it helpful and usable. And again, I think would save someone a lot of time in therapy, save them thousands of dollars in therapy, to have this information and to go through this experience. So tonight, we are talking about 4 things that your toxic family or dysfunctional family did not teach you about emotions. And I want to do some of that uh, today. And I want to talk to you about, um, and thank you, Shirley. That's so kind of you. Watching you has changed my life. I, I have heard, believe it or not, I have heard that a lot. Now, but don't worry, I don't get a big head because I know it's not just because of somehow I'm a genius and I'm smarter than everybody else. I'm not. I have just had to do what I teach people to do. And I think that's the best kind of therapist, coach, psychologist, even psychiatrist, any mental health professional, social worker. I want you to walk the walk, not just talk the talk. And in this theory, in family systems theory, you only are able to you're only able to give what you have and what you've learned and achieved. I can't take anybody past where I'm at, and I think that's an important concept. No therapist is going to take you past where they are. Now they may be ahead of you and may be able to help you, and I think many therapists can. But I also know there are many therapists that have limitations. I do too. I've had limitations as well, but I wanted to broaden and go beyond those limitations by implementing this for myself and doing this work. Um, and so, I have had to do what I teach people to do. And that's why when people ask me questions, I know what their answers are. I know what the answers are. I know, and it's not because I just read them in a book, because when I was going through that phase of learning, that's exactly what I thought, is what they're asking about. And I remember thinking that way and going, well, what would I say at this point? I remember going, I don't know what I would say. I don't know what my response would be. I don't know what a healthy, mature response would be at this time. So I've had to learn those things, and then I can offer those to you. Um, and the neat thing is, I like to share my experience, faith, hope, and all of those things with clients and with viewers. And the neat thing about it is, I'm not trying to make you me. I'm hoping you will make you you. I don't want you to become a mini Jerry. I want you to become you. That's what, because I can only be me. I can't be you, you can't be me. And I can only do my own work about me being me. Now, I can tell you what that me being me experience has been, or what have been the difficulties, or how to break through in certain ways. I can do that. But that's still not me wanting you to be me. I don't want you to be me. The whole purpose is for us to be us. And is there a way to do that? Um, and I obviously believe there are ways to do that. So when again we talk about toxic families or dysfunctional families and emotions, if in a family growing up in a dysfunctional family, if emotions were discouraged, and if emotions were, I don't want to say, um, challenged, and if the family was so tense and so anxious that whenever somebody had an emotion bubbling, it just it just raised the roof off the emotions for the family, or the emotional reactivity for the family, and that feelings were always discouraged, and they're not important, don't say that, oh, just get on with that, oh, just, what happens is, when in dysfunctional families, whatever we discourage and wish to put out in a dysfunctional family ends up being the most important thing as to how the family is functioning. Because people will say, oh, well, we didn't deal with emotions at all when I was growing up. You know what I say? Oh, then you were dealing with emotions 24/7 all of the time. you just couldn't communicate them. Because when you suppress all that, now we have this emotional anxiety that's always happening and feeling stuff and all kinds of stuff going on that we can't do anything about. That becomes very important, too important. And so what happens is whenever I see a family that does not do emotions, I already know there's way too many emotions going on. They're just under the surface. And so, if we're able to have a comfortable relationship with our feelings and our emotions, then they neither take over nor do they need to be suppressed. They're a normal, natural way to express ourselves and for our brain to use that feeling information to help us make decisions in a healthy way with those feelings. But again, if you suppress all that, then I'm telling you, this family is full of emotional tension. They just don't aren't aware of it or are not conscious of it or don't accept it or in denial about it. So, and then the other side, the flip side. So one coin is we didn't do anything with emotions. The other flip side of the coin, and say a toxic family and emotionality, is well, our family showed our emotions all the time. We were loud and we'd say whatever we felt, and we shared all kinds of stuff. Uh, and I tend to go, well, then it sounds like instead of showing all of your emotions all the time, you were showing your reactivity all the time, not necessarily your true healthy feelings. Because yeah, some families can be very technicolor in terms of their emotions and things like that. If this family operates on rage, is that them sharing their emotions with each other? No, that's them being stuck in a cycle of reactivity all the time. That's not being okay or making friends with emotions or having them be a normal part of our internal emotional process. That's not what that is. Now, is rage a feeling? Well, I suppose it is. So is anger. But that's not what I mean by healthy or emotional health in a family. Okay, I think I'm back now. I think we had just a little bit of a technical problem there. So, I would like to share four things tonight, four simple things about what your family may not have taught you about um, feelings in dysfunctional families. One of the things they may not have taught you was not all feelings are equal. Not all feelings are equal. And some have taught, and I've even seen it in books, I've heard other therapists talk about it, some have even talked about feelings are always, feelings are never wrong. Now, I agree with them from the standpoint that no one should be shamed about their feelings. Nobody should be judged for their feelings. But that's kind of a blanket statement that feelings are never wrong. Well, what if they're not true feelings? What if they're systems feelings? What if they're feelings you're supposed to feel because that's what your role requires you to operate on those feelings in this family system? Is that true feelings? Is that healthy feelings? I would tend to say, no, they're not. Now, does that mean I should be shamed because I have systems feelings? Or I might get more upset than I need to or should be? No, it's not for criticism's sake. It's for realizing that not all feelings are equal. I remember teaching a course on, I think it was, and I was, when I was stuttering, well, probably doing that too. When I was studying pastoral counseling, I remember doing a seminar at a large church where I was working at, and I think doing pastoral counseling there, family and marriage and family therapy. And I did a seminar on the 6 types of guilt. 6 types of guilt? I thought there's just guilt or not guilt. There's different types of guilt, and not all guilt is equal. And so we want to remember not all feelings are equal. There may be 6 different types of anger, 6 different types of sadness. But at least for guilt, I can at least some of them that I can think of is just there is toxic guilt. Is that normal feelings if we have toxic guilt? If we have family guilt, if we have spiritual guilt, some people who are in faith and who are in religious communities, they can have spiritual guilt. And they might talk about the Holy Spirit convicting them, or, and that's a spiritual guilt. And that's acceptable. That is a form of guilt. But there are lots of, and then there's false guilt. And then I remember even teaching in that environment, which I don't do that currently, but in that environment, even talking about demonic guilt. Is that possible? I mean, Scott Peck, The Road Less Traveled, the psychiatrist who writes about there really is truly evil in the world. So evil guilt, maybe we should use that term. There are different types of guilt, so not all feelings are equal. And we want to embrace that and accept that and begin to see our lives in that way. That, wait a minute, I don't want to give every feeling equal time and equal weight, because we don't want to give them equal weight and equal time. If I'm feeling guilty because I brought green bean casserole and my mother wanted me to bring lasagna, and I'm feeling guilty, really guilty, I'm not sure how important that guilt is. That sounds more like you disappointed mom guilt. Well, I didn't have time. I didn't get that all, I didn't get that. I didn't have the time to prepare lasagna. Lasagna takes a lot of work, a lot of effort, lots of layers. Green bean casserole may not. And so that's what I could do, rather than, oh, I feel so bad. I know mom, I didn't even promise mom I'd bring it, but that's her expectation. So now I should feel guilt. That is that healthy, normal guilt? Or is that some kind of systems or false guilt? I would lean it over here in the systems or false guilt. And I think, making those distinctions between the type of guilt that we have and not just saying all feelings are equal and should be treated equally. And, I really, whoops. Looks like moved to iPhone. I don't know if my earpods went somewhere. Let me try and let me make sure the earpods are back here. So I believe I'm still connected, and I believe you should be able to hear me. I hope so. So that's number 1. Let me talk about number 2. And again, I do want to mention that in the upcoming online program that's going to be starting soon, thank you, Sage, I'm glad you could hear, that I'm going to be going into depth into all of these ideas. I'll be talking much more about all of these ideas. The second one, feelings are for self-consultation and expressing feelings in intimate relationships and friendships, and also for helping the brain make decisions. That's a mouthful. I'll read that for you again, just so you kind of get an idea about feelings and the nature. What are feelings for? Why do we humans have them? Feelings are for self-consultation, meaning, Hi, Christine. Meaning that the it's a way for me to check in with me. And that's how feelings are a self-consultation. I'm consulting myself about how I feel, etc. And in expressing feelings to intimate relationships, because I may want to use those feelings to express affection, intimacy with friends, partners, family, etc. And then lastly, feelings are important in helping the brain make decisions. Now, I'm going to make a very important point. I didn't say the feeling should make the decision. Our frontal cortex, our more thinking part of the brain, should make the decision, but feelings can inform those decisions. And that's okay, as long as they don't totally drive the boat. We don't want the feelings driving the boat, but it can guide our decisions. Also, feelings are helpful in making quick decisions in the brain. In other words, we already have a felt sense of whether we value that or like that or not. That's a felt sense in the feeling emotional world of ours. And then we can make a decision more quickly because we have that felt sense about, no, this is not me. No, I'm not going to go that way. I'm going to go this way. Or you go buy a car. And then you might just have that sense of, because you've had all these patterns, and emotions help us with those patterns so we can put information together more quickly in the brain. And so feelings can help with that. So feelings can be a very helpful and healthy thing, as long as they are not totally running the train, and they're not coming out of a whole bunch of hurt, harm, trauma, reactivity, as long as they're not from that perspective. Thirdly, and this is what I've been suggesting, feelings need to remain in our passenger seat of our car. Us being the car, they need to remain in the passenger seat, not in the driver's seat. When we in dysfunctional families and toxic families, we learn that feelings, gosh, I'm not even sure feelings were supposed to be in the driver's seat or the passenger seat or neither seat, and that we should either be numb about it or unconsciously we're always reacting to our feelings. That fits well into a dysfunctional family. When you're always reacting to your feelings, that's the norm. Or you're just numb, iced out. You're just paralyzed, feeling paralysis, and that's a very painful position to be in. So when you think about family systems and thinks about being your true self, what would be a healthy balance for feelings? Having the feelings in the passenger seat, our thoughts and cognition in the driver's seat. I don't want the feelings in the back seat. I want them in the passenger seat, but I don't want them in the driver's seat. If you want to keep a dysfunctional family going and continuing, just put your feelings in the driver's seat, and you'll go right along with the whole. You'll be led around by the nose in a dysfunctional family with that. And so it's important to have the feelings in the passenger seat. I can't think of the name of that book. I'll think of it here. He talks about feelings and where they are in the driver's seat. He does a really good a good explanation of that. I'll put it in the description if it doesn't come to me. And then lastly, I wanted to talk about learning the language of feelings is important for those who want to know themselves and to grow into their true selves. And I think it's very difficult for someone to come into their own and coming to know their true selves if they don't have a language for their feelings. And a lot of people have not grown up with a language for their feelings, which is it's just like learning a vocabulary lesson. If you took vocabulary, I don't know if they do these days. I remember having vocabulary when I was growing up and had to learn words and what they meant. Same is true for feelings. We get a feelings list, get that off the internet, get lists of feelings. Now I've got a language I can use to express feelings and to begin to connect those with me. If it's not easy, that's okay. Just keep plugging at it. And at any time, and you can put that list in your pocket or your purse or your car or whatever, at any time you can say, I wonder what I'm feeling right now. Let me get my list out. Let me grab my list and see what, see what I'm, at any time, see if you can come up with what you're feeling. Or pretend somebody just asked you, how are you feeling today? You know, how are you feeling today? Um, then what you want to do is begin to think about, okay, how do I feel? I feel sad. I feel uh, I feel happy about what's coming up in 2 days. I feel expectant. I feel a little tired. I feel some anxiety or anxiousness over blah. And so I'm just kind of checking in with myself and consulting with myself, which is good self care also when you give your feelings a language. It can really open up a lot of new vistas for you that we didn't get growing up. Uh, you know, you know, mad, sad, numb, might have been the only feelings you had in your family. Mad, sad, numb. There wasn't much of a vocabulary to be able to communicate feelings. And with our brains and with our emotional system, it's important that we're able to put it into words. That's a very therapeutic, mature, maturing, differentiating thing to do, is to put feelings into words. Um, and again, you don't have to tell everybody your feelings. You don't have to do that. Maybe your family wouldn't be happy hearing about those. That's fine. But you want to begin to do that with yourself. Um, and that the feelings that we have, I can acknowledge in myself. I am feeling this way. And there's no judgment, there's no, just acceptance. You don't even have to do anything about those. If you feel sad, you can just say, I do feel sad. I do feel angry. I feel hurt. I feel frustrated. And you don't have to do anything with them, just give it a language and give it some words. And again, I've mentioned, there were 4 things I mentioned to you. And again, our feelings do help the brain make decisions better. And I think if we separate thoughts from feelings more and focus on giving a language to our feelings, we will have better decisions and more clarity. You'll find that clarity happening as you work on that. Of course, we have problems that can have difficulties with regard to feelings, such as traumatized feelings, um, that disordered feelings, dysregulated feelings. So we can have some problem feelings from the past, but even if we recognize those as problem feelings or CPTSD feelings or if we have difficulties like that, we can still recognize those, and we can still accept those. That yes, I because that's a part of connecting with yourself when you've been traumatized. We kind of want to leave ourselves, dissociation. We want to we get triggered and we want to come back to ourselves. And that may mean, hey, I'm having a CPTSD triggering event right now, and I'm feeling that. These feelings will not kill me. They are feelings I am having. I'm going to be calm with myself. I'm going to try to be as calm as I can. I'm going to voice and acknowledge the feelings that I have. And because with dissociation and with reactivity, both require us to come back to us. The solution is coming back to us, whether dissociation, traumatization, or reactivity. Because reactivity is not the real us. That's what's reactivity is not the real us. Um, and And you're right, they can be difficult to listen to if you've been traumatized. But you're doing this as a favor for you. You're doing this as a favor to you and listening to your own feelings and what you have experienced. Well, I have finished talking that I wanted to share with you tonight. I didn't know if there were a couple of questions that someone might have. It's been harder for me to look at the chat because when I'm trying to teach something, it's a little harder to follow the chat. So I asked if there might be a question or two I could address. While you're doing that, you might put question in caps or whatever if you have a question. The the online program, the pre-launch is all the way up to May 6th, and I think you'll find the program a pretty encompassing program about a lot of topics and a lot of good things and ways that you can change and exercises, tools. There's some discounts. There's some free thing. Not well. There's a discount for pre-launch, but there are also some free things that are going to be added to that as well. So you're going to get a lot of extras with this program, and I hope you'll take a look at that. You can go to my website, and it's right on the front page, Jerry Wise Relationship Systems. I'll also try to put it here below the video, but you just go to my website, and it's on the front. So let me check. Um, um, yeah, I think I don't know if there's a couple people here mentioned something about CPTSD, and I don't know if you are familiar with the workbook, the CPTSD workbook. You might take a look at that because it does cover the body, the mind, the emotions, it in that workbook. And I have found clients that I've worked with find that workbook a help for them and getting more grounded. Because you're right, it's a very ungrounding experience when we get triggered. Um, I think I had someone here. Sunshine. I feel guilty. I don't want to go to my dad's funeral, who was a bad father. How do I justify that? Well, I think I might have a simple answer for that. You don't have to justify it. Um, Both of my parents have passed away. Neither one were perfect. Neither one were absolutely horrible. but neither one were perfect, and there were good traits and not so good traits. Um, the When we're talking about guilt, do you think that's true and healthy guilt that you have? If you don't want to go to a funeral of a father who is bad and may have treated you very badly, um, would it be normal to feel guilty about that? I don't. I think healthily we'd go, I don't feel guilty about that. That's, you know, he had every opportunity to make whatever relationship he wanted to have with you and make it better if he had wanted to. He didn't. He's a limited human being, maybe a messed up human being. But I don't owe anyone a funeral. I owe no one a funeral. I'm sorry. I just don't. I will go when I want to go and go when it has meaning for me. But I don't owe anyone a funeral, a wedding, a birthday party, not owe them, and I feel, and I may have, maybe I would just show up and do my own personal goodbyes, maybe some good riddance, and uh, and to work on that if I wanted to do that. But I don't have to stick around. I can stay as long or as little as I want to stay, or not go at all. And if somebody says, "Well, why didn't you go to your father's funeral?" Well, you didn't know my father. Oh, yeah. Why didn't you go to your father's funeral? You didn't know my father. If you want to, if you knew, then you'd know. You know I wouldn't be going. It really wasn't a relationship I wanted to have, and I encourage a lot of people to stay in contact with their family and make some connectedness with their family, even if it's minimal, because it does tend to equal. Well, it provides a certain homeostasis for our emotionality by staying connected in that way, even if it's just cordial. Okay, show up, sign the book, bye, Dad. You were terrible. See you. There's something for contact's sake, but I never force anybody. I never there's no guilt about not doing that. Everybody's got their own relationship with their parent, and I believe they have a right to have that relationship with their parent, whether at their time of death or time of whatever. That's up to the person whose relationship. I don't owe a bad parent a relationship. Now, I do understand that I am impacted by that parent. I do understand that, and that parent may have some of that operating within me, but I don't owe them a relationship and don't owe a bad parent necessarily anything unless I've signed a contract that I owe them money, then I better pay them back. But um, if I don't, I don't have to have a relationship with them. You can have a relationship with one sibling and not with the other because we are adults. We are not children. Um, and Cassandra, I see on there, my bad person for cutting off all contact. I have a video on going no contact with family members or with parents. You might take a look at that. Um, the With the no contact, there are some guidelines that I give about going no contact. Again, there is no shame. Nobody's owed contact, and nobody requires that contact. They're not going to require it of me. If I don't have a relationship with you, there may be a reason why I don't have a relationship with you. Maybe you're not such a great person. I don't care whether you're my sibling, my parent, my uncle, aunt. It doesn't matter. People are still just people, and I don't owe someone a relationship because I share some DNA. Now, I do share a super self and a family trance with all these people, but that's a whole nother issue. And I go into that on the online program as well. But I think everyone has the right to make their own choice about that. Is that societal guilt? See, there's another type of guilt, societal guilt. Oh, well, you didn't go to your dad's funeral? That guilt is societal guilt. That's not true guilt, it's societal guilt. And I'm not going to live by that guilt. If I feel guilty and it's a healthy guilt for me and I've done something wrong, then I should feel guilty, but not societal guilt, false guilt, systems guilt. No, that's not for me. I'm not going to live my life based on that guilt. I may have it, but I'm not going to base my choices on that. And I've told many people, oh, but Jerry, if I do this, um, I will just feel so guilty and I'll be miserable. And I'll say, do you want to do it rather than not do it? And they say, no, I definitely feel this is the right thing to do, but I will just feel so guilty, like not going to your dad's funeral or something like that, or mother's funeral, or make go all no contact. That, yes, that's, you have a right to make that decision. And society doesn't tell you what you need to do about that, because society is not very surgically oriented in terms of specific. Yeah, everybody should love their parents. Every parent should love their children. Okay, those are some conventional wisdom, yes. But is that the way the real world works? Well, not for many of us. There are many of us that doesn't work that way. So I like to think about, if I had a normal, like Cassandra, if you had a normal mother, I wouldn't be going no contact if I had a normal mother. So I wouldn't be going no contact. But because my mother is not well or mean or narcissistic or whatever issues she's got, borderline or problematic, whatever, um, then I've chosen not to have contact with her. And so I'm using abnormal rules to fit an abnormal family. Society wants to come in and say, act like your family is normal and use the normal family rules for these very abnormal people. That's not good wisdom. That's not good. It's not a good plan. Abnormal requires abnormal responses. Now, society may look at my abnormal responses and go, well, that's kind of weird. You mean you don't want to go to your father's funeral? Who wouldn't want to go to their father's funeral? I don't, I mean, and I don't have to. And that, because they're using normal rules for normal family situations and not using abnormal rules for abnormal situations. Just like I say, well, why wouldn't you go to your father's funeral? Well, you didn't know my father, or you'd fully understand. You go, oh yeah, you'd probably be holding me back from going to the funeral. So I let people know, well, if you knew what I know, you would be making, I think, the same choice as me, believe it or not. Well, I'm going to have to call it a time here on our video. Please sign up for the online program that's coming up. Check that out at my website. I thought this live would be a positive thing for you. I'm going to be doing another live, hopefully tomorrow. And if I can get some notice out ahead of time, I will. Sometimes it's a little tough. And Your New Road to Self is the new program. There's also free training that you can sign up for that's free for about 84 minutes that's up on the website. And you can get that. I think you just put your email address in and you get the webinar and it comes to you. There's interactions with the webinar. I think you might enjoy that. And thank you all for joining me. I hope you have a great day and be wise. Hello, my name is Jerry Wise, and I am a relationship expert, a self-expert, a marriage and family therapy expert, and I'm the founder and director of Jerry Wise Relationship Systems. And today's video is entitled From Self-Blame to Self-Acceptance. A lot of people have mentioned to me about the difficulties they have with self-blame and how that's a chronic, very common problem that people experience often, and it's a very painful, toxic experience when our internal emotional life is accepting too much blame for problems around us, for people's feelings, for people's difficulties, for conflicts, and all kinds of other behaviors. Adult children of alcoholics, adult children of narcissists, and generally adult children of dysfunctional families all suffer with this similar experience of the problem of self-blame. Now, if you get nothing else from this video today, I hope you will get that self-blame has an antidote, and that antidote is self-acceptance. Not easy, but certainly an important work that we have to do to accept ourselves. So what is self-blame? Self-blame is a learned response in which adult children reverse to a childlike state and feel over-responsible for problems or conflicts. Excuse me. Michael Formica on the Enlightened Living website mentions, and he states, self-blame is one of the most toxic forms of emotional abuse. It amplifies our perceived inadequacies, whether real or imagined, and paralyzes us before we can even begin to move. And as you've heard from me so often, blame, as I've said in many of my videos, is an emotional mental state that deflects from the real source of the problem, or the real focus, or the real issue that is responsible for the problem. And this misassigned responsibility is a way to take the focus away from who really should be responsible for these problems. When we misassign responsibility and blame ourselves and over-blame ourselves, take over responsibility, it comes out of our naivety and our blindness to the responsibilities that others have, or others who should be taking responsibility for these problems. For example, a child is blamed for upsetting dad who's an alcoholic and why he's drinking. A child is blamed for not being perfect, for wasting water, for not eating all their food, for being ungrateful, for upsetting their sibling, for not doing enough, for causing dad and mom to argue, for speaking the truth, for causing the negative feelings in others, such as anxiety, hurt, anger, shame, guilt. And that person or adult will cause the child and will want the child to take responsibility for problems that they have not resolved or should take responsibility for. This is a critical point in this video today. Children learn this self-blame to preserve a belief in parental integrity or in the integrity of another. We must ascribe or take on, we must ascribe positive motives for them and positive motives for our parents or whomever we are taking too much self-blame for. we must keep that positive integrity, and so we will blame ourselves so as to not injure that integrity of the other. In other words, for example, a child grows up in a very dysfunctional, abusive family that's very conflictual or alcoholic or narcissistic, and they must maintain the integrity of these types of beliefs. My parents really do love me. Or in an alcoholic marriage, I know my alcoholic husband really loves me, even though he does all these bad things. My parents are right. Parents must know, or others must know, what's best or right for me. Parents just want me to learn better. Parents are protecting me. Well, because there's this incongruence, meaning you have the alcoholic spouse who's doing all kinds of damage to the family and to the marriage, etc., and we go, but I know he loves me, so I wonder how I should be the blame for this. Because I don't want to look at the fact that maybe he's just not able to love you in a healthy way. Maybe your parents weren't loving you as narcissists. Assumption, because there's this incongruence, then denial sets in. And then we don't want to look at their real traits and look at them in a reasonable, rational way. Assumption of all the responsibility protects the parents and parental integrity when we're growing up. As long as I take all the blame, then mom and dad are still good. And I need them to be good, because if I didn't think they were good, I'd really be having difficulties, fears, anxieties, etc. Now, here's the thought process that goes into self-blame when we're growing up as children. There's nothing wrong with my parents. They are good and loving, no matter what they do. That's the parental integrity that I have to keep in place. But there is something wrong here, because I'm getting beaten, I'm getting criticized, I'm getting shamed, etc. Then perfectionism and conditional behavior acceptance kicks in. And then we go, if I change myself, I can fix the wrong, so I have some control over what's going on. And if I blame myself, I don't have to blame them and have conflict with them. And the inconsistency is fixed, and I can be loved and cared for if I take the blame. So if I take the blame, fix myself, then my parents will love me and continue to care about me, even though they're acting as though they don't. But we can't see that as children. We have to maintain that parental integrity. Self-blame is a part of the adult child's sense of unhealthy omnipotence or all-powerfulness and negative grandiosity, that it must just be my fault, so I'll take all this negativity. And what does that do for us? It wards off helplessness and fear. Then I don't have to deal with the helplessness and fear. I just take the blame, try to fix myself, and things get better. Self-blame results in a way to bind uncomfortable feelings of loss of control and anxiety. If I take the blame, it helps with that loss of control and anxiety that I don't want to experience. Self-blame is also a result of all or nothing thinking. Someone has to be totally right, someone has to be totally wrong. And that all or nothing thinking comes from very dysfunctional families. And then we have self-blame. Well, if they have to be totally right, if someone has to be totally wrong, then I guess it will be me. Because I can at least control that to some degree. So what do we do to recover from self-blame? First of all, we become aware self-blame has a lot of power when it happens automatically. So by becoming aware of our self-blame spiral and our self-blame pattern, we can realize we are doing it and begin to gain some control over it. Secondly, determine the content of the self-blame. Where is the misassigned responsibility? So I have to look at how am I misassigning this responsibility to myself when there should be more responsibility across the board, or maybe I'm not responsible at all, but I've taken on this responsibility. Look for the roots of the problem in our childhood. How and where did we learn to self-blame? Where did we need to keep integrity of the other person intact? And so many people, like let's say wives who've married alcoholics, they grew up in families where they had to keep their parents' integrity intact. Now they've married someone that they have to keep their spouse's integrity intact. And the way to do that is through self-blame. It must be my fault. Go back and relive your childhood and heal the messages and assign the proper responsibility. For example, I was not responsible for my dad's drinking or my parents fighting or their divorce or the abuse that they heaped on me. I was not responsible for that. I was the child, they were the adult. They thought I should be the adult and they should act like children. And somehow I wanted to keep that parental love integrity in place, so I took the blame. Self-acceptance. Take a self-care approach to self-blame. Do some work accepting your weaknesses, imperfections, and mistakes. Acknowledge your humanness, and that's very difficult for adult children to do. There's a very strong perfectionism dynamic that goes on, and they very much need to be perfect or always do it right. And if they do a little bit wrong, then they take 110 responsibility for doing their part of doing it wrong. They take 110% when really they might be 10% responsible for what's going on or the problem. Work on your self-differentiation from your family of origin. Self-blame is a form of enmeshment, as I've said many times in the videos that I've done, and too much emotional togetherness with your family of origin will continue on into adulthood and on into your adult relationships. So if we can break free of enmeshment in our family of origin, we can break free in our enmeshment in our adult relationships. And that's a family systems principle. Write down the ways you are responsible in this instance or for this problem. Write down how you are responsible and write down the ways you are not responsible or that others are responsible in this instance. Get a clarity of where does that responsibility lie, and don't stay in the naivety or the denial that it's all me. No. Write it down, see it, feel it, read it, that, wait a minute, I am responsible for these 2 things. They are responsible for these 10 things, or the cause of us being here in the first place. And again, just like in an alcoholic home, dad drinks too much, spends too much money, they don't have enough money, they have trouble paying the water bill, then the child has the water on in the bathroom, and guess what happens? Why are you wasting all that water? Oh, and then the child goes, must be all my fault for wasting water. No, the responsibility falls on dad and mom who are not taking their finances responsibly. Dad's drinking he's not dealing with. And so now it falls down to the child who's just got the water on in the bathroom. And guess who gets the blame for all those problems? The child. Also, and this is not an easy thing to do, write down the downsides if you gave up the pattern and spiral of self-blame. What conflicts would that cause? If I stopped blaming myself for everything and stopped self-blaming, what conflict would that cause? Certainly in the case of the alcoholic husband and wife, then the wife, let's say, could be just as easily the husband, but the wife is not the drinker, the husband is, and she decides, wait a minute, it's not my fault. And that's why we go to Al-Anon and 12-step groups. It's not my fault that he's drinking and being irresponsible. I'm not going to take the blame for all the problems we have that are related to his drinking. Well, what would be the downside of giving that up and giving up that thought process? The downside would be now we have much more conflict between husband and wife. And the pressure is put on the addict or alcoholic that the problem lies there, not with the wife, which keeps a nice status quo and peacemaking happening. So there may be some real reasons why I want to keep self-blaming, because I don't want to deal with the anxiety, the feelings of loss of control, the conflict that's going to happen if I don't take the self-blame. So we want to deal with those downsides so that we can be stronger in resisting self-blame. And I would recommend getting a coach, a therapist, or someone to help you with those downsides. That might take a little more work from someone who's guiding you. Maybe even a sponsor could be of help to you in your 12-step recovery group. I hope that you will contact me if you'd like to work with me and deal with self-blame or other issues. Again, I work on self-differentiation and help people to grow and becoming their true authentic selves. I hope you'll go to my website, www.jerrywiserelationshipsystems.com. You can join the mailing list. I hope you'll join this YouTube channel of the same name. And then I have the Facebook Facebook page, which also is the same name. Excuse me, and I put up videos and quotes on the Facebook page. So you can join our community of family systems folks who are interested in healing a new and different way. I do want to thank you for listening today, and I hope you have a great day.